first edition. Technically, this is the first. And today we are also having another session on one of the what I consider some of the core aspects of data engineering. We have with us already Jean-Joseph. He's the one who's going to present, and I'll quickly go through my intro slide. In this intro, and I have to finish it by 8:05. So this is the topic for today, building scalable SCD Type 2 pipelines in Microsoft Fabric data warehouse using T-SQL. And we try to let the Q&As be packed to the end, but if you have questions, put them in the chat so that you don't forget. And if there's an opportunity for Jean to answer your question before the end, he will. But for now, let's just make sure you put your questions in the chat and technically just think of Q&A as at the end of the session. And I'm going to put this in the chat. So this is all of the platforms where we now have presence, where you can follow beyond just what happens in the twice a month webinar. And this is why we are here. So Jean-Joseph is a seasoned consultant. He's a senior Microsoft trainer. I think he used to work with Microsoft officially, and he also used to be an MVP. He's got a strong background in database design, database administration. He's also into the, what's reigning now, the generative AI, but he has been in before the hype. So he's someone who has always been in the data space. He's going to be walking us through what he has planned for us. So I'm going to get out of his way, and I'm going to hand over to him. And so over to you, Jean. It's a pleasure to have you. I'll stop sharing my screen, and you can take charge of the screen share. And you're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Perfect. Yes, good.
Outstanding, great. So let me make sure my screen is sharing, and I'm about to show this to the primary one. So which is right up. The primary one is somewhere over there. Let me go this one. That's the one right in front of me. Perfect.
Yes,
great. So thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be on the call. I'm excited doing what I'm doing. So that's the reason why I'm on the call. Over the weekend, I had a bit of fever and cold, but I said that will not have me to cancel this meeting. I'll do my best to make it. As Michael mentioned, it will be a deep dive into building an end-to-end data ingestions, right? Using Transact SQL. So if you are a SQL guy and a SQL professional, trust me, we will have a lot of fun. And here's the thing, this is an 8 hours workshop. I shrank it into 60 to 75 minutes. I'm not sure how long I can be on the call. So therefore, this is being shrank. So with that said, I will briefly go over the Transact SQL automations, but mainly focus on the data pipeline, okay? After we done on end-to-end data implementations. By the way, my name is Jean-Joseph. I live in New Jersey for the last 18 years. However, I was born in Haiti. You may notice there is a bit of accent. This is a Creole and French accent because I'm Haitian, okay? And I was a former Microsoft employee. I was part of the technical training team. My responsibility was mainly on data and AI migrations. But prior to Microsoft, I was a consultant working on data and engineering, a bit of machine learning. And then after Microsoft, I work at Tech Insight Group as a principal data and AI architect. If you would like to connect with me, you are free to do that, and I will be happy to connect with you as well. I'm also a data community builder, as you may notice. I am the founder and co-organizer of Data Driven. Data Driven is a community where we also meet every Thursday at 12 p.m. where we talk about data, AI, and visualizations. I also blog in case if you like to know what would be my hobbies. You can see food. You can see how big I am. Food is one of them. I'm addicted to technology. Therefore, I do a lot of research on technology, using YouTube and also audiobooks. So my objective is to help organizations build scalable, reliable data and AI platform using Microsoft Fabric, Databricks, Copilot Studio, and SQL. So what we do at Tech Insight Group, first of all, we upscale team. If you are looking for trainers that can come and upscale your team, we are open for that. And also, if you have a project that is related on end-to-end data pipeline, agentic AI, we can help you with that as well. Okay. So our objective is to talk about ingesting data into the data warehouse. So therefore, it is ideal to understand what exactly is the data warehouse, right? So that's going to be our goals, right? And then we'll go over what we call the SQL scripts to do the implementations. So think of a data warehouse, right, as a place where you ingest data from different sources, clean that data, and store that data for analysis. So once that data is stored, we can consider this as a centralized, trusted data governance, trusted data govern, right? So in other words, we require most likely a distributed system. In our case, it's going to be Fabric. What exactly is Fabric? Fabric is a unified data analytic platform. So with that said, it doesn't matter if you are part of data science team or if you want to do analysis in real time when it comes to event-based, or if you want to process data and clean them at any scale, or designing an end-to-end data pipeline or machine learning pipeline. So Fabric allows you to do that. Not only that, in the context of data lake, Fabric came up with a concept called one lake, where, for example, it has no limitation in terms of region when it comes to storage, because that's going to tight your Fabric capacity, right? And it also allows business intelligence team to go and perform all kind of analysis. So with that said, take off Fabric not only as a unified data analytic platform, but also that allow any professional event. It doesn't matter if it's IT or business stakeholders within your organization, they all can sit on top of Fabric, take advantage of it. And if they don't know anything, Copilot could be there for them, right? Regarding governance, we think in the context of Fabric, it has everything you wish to have. However, outside of Fabric, you cannot pinpoint anything. The lineage stop there, the governance stop there. What can we do to get a global view governance or treat data as a product outside of Fabric context? This is where you can pair that with Microsoft Purview, right? But our focus is mainly on what we call ingestions and data warehouse. So with that, Fabric offers two types of data warehouse, right? If your environment is heavily performing data manipulations, ingestions, treatment using SQL, The Synapse data warehouse is ideal for that. But there is another data warehouse anytime when you provisions a lake house. So with that said, the SQL endpoint allow you to do exploration and analytics. So our focus would be here. But here's the thing, Tim. Speaking of data warehouse, it is ideal to understand the entities that are involved, right? In a normal warehouse platform, 80% of the time, we will normally dealing with two type of tables. The first one is a dimension. So what exactly are dimension? Dimension are the descriptive entities, right? The one that allow you to describe the transaction, the measure, or the one that allow you to help you understand who did that, what, where, when. When you go over your fact tables. So what exactly is the fact table? The fact tables is where all your measures, your numerical, your additive or semi-additive metric would be, right? So with that, the purpose of the fact table is to allow you to get access to the quantitative data used for analysis and reporting. But here's the thing, if the data is very segmented, where data consistency or integrity may impact, that is where you have to think out of the box, right? So most of the time, we might need to add what we call a bridge table if we want to simplify the modeling in terms of when to choose Snowflake over Star, because the bridge table will allow us to have, for example, a table within a star schema most of the time, and that table may not have direct relationship with the fact table, which is something we have to question. But 80% of the time, in order to prevent such issue, we normally have a bridge table. But if you know data modeling well in a data warehouse, you would stick with a normalization. So what do I mean by that, right? In the context of data modeling in a warehouse, we normally have star schema and Snowflake. There are some, but there are some others, but those are the ones that are mostly used. In the context of star schema, each fact table must have one direct relationship with each dimension. So because this fact table has direct relationship with each dimension, so that allow you to boost your query performance, right? The downside of the star schema, duplication may occur because under one or more what we call dimension, the same subset of data may exist. So with that said, if the data is very segmented where there are multiple category and subcategory, it might be best to not denormalize that data. Instead, keep the data normalized and bring what we call Snowflake into the picture, because the goal of Snowflake is to keep the data normalized under a denormalized environment in order to promote better data accuracy, data consistency, and remove duplications. However, it comes with a cost, because as you may notice in the star schema, the rule of the fact table must have direct relationship with the dimension table is no more exist, right? So with that said, if I need information regarding the subcategory, I will need to join the fact table with the product table, then go with the DIM category. Okay, and same apply for DIM geography. If I need to performing some analysis on DIM geography, I will need to join that with either customer or DIM store. So with that said, performance may impact, right? So it's always a trade-off between query accelerations and simplicity, and also data consistency that allow you to reduce what we call duplications. But when it comes to dimensional ETL, so it is ideal to understand the intent of each features. The intent of each features will allow you to design a slowly changing dimension that fit your organizations. So far we have 7, start from 0. 0 is when the feature or the attribute cannot be changed. For example, my birthday can be changed. That's impossible. If they get it right on my birth certificate, that cannot change, right? So consider if I'm single or married, this is debatable. So should we keep history or should we override that, right? But here's the thing, the address. The address, for example, it's normally one of the things we would like to keep track of. So therefore, that's going to be type 2, and so on. There's different ways we can keep we can keep history up with it history depending on the need, but for simplicity, we're gonna stay right here, okay? Because we don't have enough time. So if we're looking at here, we can see that in the type 2, there's one record that was active, and now we receive a new record. So we have to go expire the old record and get the new record and make that new record as active. In here, the source key is the business key, right? But when we're loading the data, we need a unique identifier. So this is where what we call the surrogate key comes in or come into the picture, because the role of the surrogate key is to enforce uniqueness in order for us to treat each transactions as a single independent entity, right? So, so if you don't see any kind of uniqueness, it is because we are using the business ID here, okay? Perfect. How can we load that data? There's different ways we can load that data, but for us, we will focus on these two, right? For OPENROWSET, we normally use that for explorations or for small data set. We can still load that data using OPENROWSET, but if the data is huge, we highly suggest you to take advantage of copy. So with that said, we're gonna build a data warehouse from scratch. So how would we do this, right? We will consider bronze as a stage environment because we are loading files and archiving the file, and then we are cleaning that file and move that to silver. Silver can be treated as what we call as a third normal form. This is where we have to we have to clean the data that was that was on bronze, and after we clean it and validate it, save it under silver. For aggregations, what we would normally do once the data is clean, so that's going to be a clean transactional data set. So doing analysis, transactional record, it's not really makes sense. So we will need to aggregate that. The aggregate is normally done for business to be able to extract insight. We won't have time to do that for your informations, right? So what we're going to do, we have files, as you can see here. This is the live demo we are about to go over. So we have two locations. We have a full load. That full load would be the initial load, and we have the delta load. So we want it to be metadata driven. So with that said, we will have to create a config variable. We will rely on copy to move that data and use Microsoft Fabric data pipeline for automations. So in order for you to execute the code, you are free to use any of these IDE. For me, I will rely on SQL Server. Okay. However, where I spend most of my time is VS Code. So I highly suggest you, if you're not familiar with it, get yourself familiar with it, okay? And also during the process, we will need to create an ETL log and error log just to keep track. Perfect. So with that said, give me a second, let me move. So I'll be all over the place. And if you have a question, feel free to let me know, okay? So just give me 1 second. I am about to bring, okay, perfect. So this is the location where the files are. I just want to give you a brief overview. So we have electronics. We have the full load. Within that full load, we have customers, the products, reviews, and we have the FAQ. Okay, so if we're looking at the delta, that's going to be the incremental load. You may notice we don't even have a review there, okay? But we may or may not have it in reality. So now, if we have to do this, this is our database that I just created. Okay, let me drop anything that was provisioned there, so at least we can start from scratch because I did test it today just to make sure everything worked as expected. So you may notice now that database should be kind of brand new. There's nothing here. So it seems like there's a question. So if this is a question, let me know. What did we do is that I created this.
I have a question. For the SCD2, the diagram only mentions append. Will you be updating the record that is expired?
Let me see. For SCD2, it has to be one record must be expired, and we have to update the new record. Okay,
Yeah,
just give me.
I guess like if the old record, are you adding like an expiration date or
Yes,
okay,
yes,
so that will be updated. Okay.
mhm, yes. Perfect. Great. So now let me go back here. Perfect. If we're looking at here, this is the workspace we are working here. In order for you to provision a data warehouse, this is where you have to go and provision it, right? So this is the warehouse. Once you click here, you provide a name. That's said already done it for you. If you may notice here is that I have the data warehouse. I have one, which is data engineers in Toronto, right? So now this is where we will load that data. Technically speaking, we have nothing here already. So let me refresh this, which I just dropped them. We should have nothing there. Just keep it perfect. We have nothing here. So what I'm going to do is to bring my, this is kind of from scratch, and I just want you to see the flow of this. Okay, so just give me 1 second and let me bring those. Okay, so there's a lot of script we have to execute. And while this is executing, let me walk you we will need also to provision a data pipeline. So to do the automations, so to provision the data pipeline, we have to come and look for pipeline right here. So perfect. So you have to go here, deploy that, and once you deploy it, you are set. Perfect. So hopefully this is done. We have about 16 scripts to execute. So let's see. It seems like we have everything. So what I'm doing here is that I'm creating the table because OpenROSET allows us to do, for example, exploration, and we can create a table as out of OpenROSET. When we are using copy command, the table must exist first. What I want you to see is that if I open the file, this is a customer, you should see on the bronze, it match 1-to-1 to that file. Just give me 1 second. Let me go back right there. Okay, this is customer. So if I open this, you should see it match one-to-one. Customer ID, first name, last name, region, and sign up date. And then if you come here, you will see those are what we have for bonds, okay? I will explain to you why I bring this to your attention. Even when we creating the fact table, we make sure it match everything, right? So now, give me 1 second. Let's execute this. You know, what did we do here? Just hold on. Let me explain it, and I will. Oh, I didn't create the schema yet. Perfect. So here, when we're creating the bonds, let me execute this and explain it. When we're creating the bonds, we kept the same the same file schema definition, but when we're creating the silver, we have to keep history. We need a way to quickly identify the history. This is the reason why I have the hash diff. We have an effective date. The effective date is the one that will tell which record are effective, which one are not effective. And days is current, which is a byte, right? And there's the load date. We would like to understand the load date. However, there are more metadata I highly suggest you to add, because most of the time we might need to bring different application data. So therefore, the application ID must be part of each dimension table, even within the fact table, which is ideal for auditing and troubleshooting. Okay. Those are information we are adding that is part of the loading part. When it comes to the data warehouse, there has nothing to do with business. And same apply for the surrogate key. The intent of the surrogate key is to make sure we treat each row as a single entity. That's it. So this is the business idea that will drive the entire analysis from business side. And this is the idea that will drive the end-to-end data load. Okay. And then same apply for everything else. So now we have the table. If we refresh this, you may notice that we have silver, we have ETL, and we have bronze. So now we have all our table created. What we are doing here is to create a config file. So we have to be able to log all execution process. We have to be able to track any kind of errors. That's what we're doing, but there must be a way to process those data. That's the reason why we are creating those top procedures, right? As you can see right here. Perfect. Okay. But here's the thing, everything must be data driven. So if we're looking at here, we have to replace this with the storage where the data is coming from. So if we change this one, so let me go back right here. We can cancel this. And then let me go back to my storage. I will need, give me 1 quick second, the storage account name. That's what I have here. So let's paste it here. That's good. I will also need to know the workspace ID, because for auditing and troubleshooting purpose, when we're loading the data, we want to know where that data has been landed, right? And we want to know every step along the way, right? So the workspace ID and your Fabric data warehouse ID, it is ideal to make it part of your metadata driven. So how can we get those? This is your workspace ID. So I'm going to copy this right there and give it here. And we need the data warehouse ID. Okay. So now what I'm doing here is to let me bring this to the data warehouse. So what was the data warehouse right there? Give me a second. And then let me go. I need the data warehouse. So this is the data warehouse. Now I can get the ID from here. Perfect. So after I get the ID, I can execute this and insert the whole record. Now I have my config table that is created. Okay, now my config table is up and running. So guess what happened? Okay, the next thing we have to do is to create a store procedure to load that data. So here we need to know the target. And what I want you to understand, team, when we're dealing with CSV, sorry, it may has header. So if it has header, we're not sure how many, for example, line we have to skip. So we need to create the process to make it very flexible. We require process ID. The process ID, at the end, you will understand. And everybody who's creating any kind of ETL process doesn't have a process ID, missing a lot. That process ID is a single identifier for all end-to-end load for each executions from bronze all the way to gold layer. In case if anything happened, we can chase back exactly what was going on. Here, this is where we control if it's a delta or full load. Should I load for full load? We have less to worry. For delta, there must be logic being implemented, and that's the procedure control that. This is the app name. The other things I have seen on my consultancy, or even when I'm working for full time for any kind of employees I have a chance to work for, sorry, they don't give you flexibility. What I'm giving is I'm bringing this one to make it flexible. You can see this is null. So doing the automations, I will generate this automatically. But for troubleshooting, or if I need to execute just this store procedure without worrying about the automation, I must be able to do that. Because if it's null, what I would do and do the calculation here and get the path as I want. So because I treat the bronze as a staging, I truncate it. But normally, bronze must be an audit layer. As after I loaded the file will be zipped and moved to a different directory. Truncating it makes sense. But within the zip file name, you must include the load at the time you're receiving it, the time you load it, and the application ID within the file name. Like 5 years from now, we can still go back to our logging process and get any kind of information that we want, right? So this is where we're creating the copy comment. You know, with copy comment, it's allow you to get that data, but the table must be exist. This is the query that I'm generating. And also we have to log that. If you're looking at here, this is the process name. This is the Fabric workspace. This is the target table. This is where the data come from. This is how many records that was inserted. This is, for example, when the process start. This is when it end. That's the process ID for troubleshooting and audit purpose. And then if anything error out, what we're going to do is to log that as well. So once we execute this, we have this. The next thing is to load that data. We could load that data this way, team, right? So I can execute this way. So that's good. So if you rely on store procedure to do such automation, that's going to be one of the greatest way to do that. But 80% or 90% of the time, we would rely on a pipeline. So if I bring this one here, is that I will show you what I'm doing. And if you have questions, you are free to ask, and I'll be happy to provide information. So this is what I'm doing right there. Okay, so let me execute, open this. So what I'm doing here, I'm getting a lookup. If you're looking at this lookup, this is our Toronto database, right? I just create that process. But I didn't finish to create the whole store procedure, right? So with that said, if this is a question, just let me know. With that said, there are more for us to execute. So we can still load that data, but we choose not to do it now. So let's go and proceed with moving that data from bronze to silver. So with that said, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a store procedure that will move the DIM product. So this is, it requires the target, which is the table we will load that data from the bronze. We require the application name and the process ID. So now, if we're looking at here, because we are doing type 2, we must first expire the old record. What we are doing, I'm expiring the old record and set its current to 0. That's what I'm doing here, okay? So I am using the silver dimension table, join that with what we call the silver dimension product, the bronze dimension product table. This is the stage 1. And I'm joining them based on the business process, not the surrogate key, because the surrogate key serve a purpose of the loading, not the business. So we require the business. And I want to make sure I only target what we call, it seems like, there is, okay, perfect. We good. So I only want to make sure I touch any row that are active, because if a row are not, if any rows are not active, we do not want to go and change that. What you are seeing is the hash. I'm using hash byte SHA-256, and I'm concatenating the information. So to expire those records. So during the insert, I calculate that hash. If you're looking at this hash difference, I calculate it here, right here. So this is what I'm doing here, as you can see here. Do you understand? So therefore, if I'm dealing with massive data, during the expiration, it's going to take me less time. So now I'm inserting that data after I expire those records, and also log the execution times and if there are any error. So same thing apply for DIM customer. It is the same logic except that different tables. So now if we're looking at, sorry, sorry. If we know, if we have to create the date table, it is the same logic. Give me a second. And if we have to create what we call the fact sales table, the logic change. Because I know the data I'm using in a join, it doesn't matter how I receive that data, the inner join will work. However, you might need to, within the workshop, we have 3 ways we play that data, but for the data that we are working, left join or inner join will work, but depending on the complexity, you might need to do more synchronization across bronze and silver, just to make sure the data you are about to load into your data warehouse meet business expectations. So for now, this will work, and we want to make sure we only insert what is relevant. That's what we are doing here, okay? And then let me see. For this one, it is DIM review. The review is what tell us exactly how is it a positive or negative. Okay, and then what else? So now we have all the tables. We don't want to load it, but for the automation purpose, we would like, for example, to generate this. What this one is doing, let me create it and show you, is that if I say full load, which is the load type, that's the bonds, I want you to understand it gave me all the location where the files are. It gave me, for example, the file name. It gave me the system name and the load time and the schema. But if I say delta, I want you to understand. If I say delta, I want you to see what happened. Now I have an order ID. Why do I have the order ID? I have the order ID because we have to load the dimension first. Then we have to load the facts because the fact table will have a foreign key that comes from each dimension. So therefore, all dimension must load, sorry, first, then we load the fact table. So that control the logic layer. So what I'm doing here is that to simplify the config table, to simplify it and to use less code, and I hard code this procedure here, but that must be part of your login process because the framework was a little bit too complex. I have to shrink it to make it fit to this webinar. Okay, so now perfect. We have everything. Let me see what we have left. This is the we don't want to load that data here because we have time. I'm not sure how many times I have left. How many times I have left?
We are flexible. So what typically we tell attendees is if they have to go somewhere, no worries, they can leave. The session is being recorded. They can watch the recording. So you have as much time as you need to go through what you've prepared for us.
Outstanding. Then let me go with the manual and I will explain the automation. Outstanding. Perfect. Thank you so much. So here's the thing, team. I'm going to go and load that data manually, and I want you to see what happened. Okay, so we're going to go and load it manually. Perfect. I escape it just to save time. So what I want you to understand, the process log is empty. You see it? The error log is empty. So what am I doing here? This is manual process, but we can automate this script in Fabric as well for your information. So I'm loading the Zim table. You may notice all of them use the same store procedure because we did use SP execute SQL to dynamically generate the copy, right? So that's the same thing I'm doing here. So now give me once again, where do I have this one? I want to show you. I think I have put a query here. Let me go back right there. Hold on. Let me bring this one back one more time. This is this one. Okay, let me bring this one here. So perfect. So what we are seeing here, we can see we have no data here. Let me execute the whole thing here. We have no data. Perfect. And then here as well, we have no data. Perfect. I'm going to load that data, execute this. When I execute this, what it's going to do, it will put out what it's doing as well. So you can see it goes and load customer. That's what it's doing here. It's loading the Zim product. It's loading the Zim date. It's loading the review. And then it's loading the fact table. So now if I go back here, what I want you to understand, we should get data. We have 100 record, 25, 25, 25, but I have a better script that can do the validation for us. Let me go and open that script. So therefore we can have a better audit. I think it's 5. Perfect. So what I'm going to do is to execute this. You can see we get that. And I want you to notice that we log everything as well. Take a look. We log everything. So we know the process. We have a process ID that identifies. So therefore, if you have this process ID, you have access to the entire executions. for one executions, because each time we execute, there must be a process ID generated, okay? So we know the workspace the data will be landed. So this is where the data come from, right? And this is where the data landed. Perfect. That's how many rows, the start time, and then the status and the duration. Perfect. So now this data team is not there on what we call bonds. So we need to load that data in bond, in silver. If we go, we check the silver is empty, but we check bonds has data, right? And if we go, give me 1 second, where did we execute this? That was 4. So if we go right there, now we have information. That's good. Let's close this. Okay, so we are going to close this. Instead of we run this manually, what we could have done, team, let me show you. I'm going to the pipeline and I want you to see. So this is, for example, get Azure storage file endpoint, right? So if I do preview, it will bring to me the information that I need. And by using bronze and full load, just give it a second. In the meantime, yeah, perfect. If you're looking at here, we have this data, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to truncate this instead of we execute this manually. So I will show you how we could have designed a pipeline for that, okay? So now, perfect. If we're looking at here, this is our database. So in here, we have a process ID. So if I go here, I set that process ID to extract the year, the month, the date, the hours, the minute, the second. So therefore, the process ID can be considered as a timestamp for the loading time as well. Okay, so now inside of this, I'm using it for each loop. We think that for each loop, we do not want the process to fail. We have to check if the file exists. I'm using get metadata. Is that okay to drink some water? Give me a second. Sorry. So here I am checking the setting. What I'm doing right there, I'm splitting it. The reason why I'm splitting it, I'm connecting here already. I don't need the endpoint. What I need is the container and subfolder path. That's all I need. And this is what I extracted from here, okay? So in here, I'm using if conditions. Inside of my if conditions, I'm using a scripters because the scripters give you more flexibility in terms of SQL, right? So I'm using this and connected to this one. What I want you to understand here is where I construct my script using concatenations. That's the store procedure. If you recall, when I call this, when I load it manually, that's the exact same store procedure that I call. Let me show you this. I think this is for. So this is the store procedure we call multiple times, okay? That's the store procedure we call multiple times. Perfect. That store procedure is what we have here. So we need a target. So we get that from item, okay? So the item is what we get from the for each loop. And remember the for each loop, get it from the lookup. Okay, so we need to tell the number of rows to be skipped at the process ID. We generate that process ID manually, if you recall. So therefore, the process ID is in. We have to convert it here. The conversion is being done. And we also have to provide the load type, the application name. We get that here and the full path. If you recall, when we create this store procedure, the full path was null. So the null, that flexibility gives us access to automate that store procedure and run it manually without any modifications, right? That's amazing. Perfect. Great. So now if we go back here, okay, if the file does not exist, we force a failure. So within that failure, we just force it, and then we say no file on 4, we append it, okay? And then we provide an error code. That's good, amazing. So now what I want you to understand, I'm about to execute this. So it was executed successfully. I tested, so hopefully it works again. Let me show you. So just for your information, this is still, where is this one? Hold on. Perfect. Just for information, it is still 0. If it should be 0. So now we're gonna execute this. So what we're going to do, we will execute this. So if we execute this, take a look. So it might take between 90 seconds. In the meantime, if you have a question, feel free to ask. I'll be happy to respond to that. Any questions so far?
I'm watching. Any questions? Oh, like, I have to comment on how you had prepared a lot for us, you know. Now I understand when you say this is like a 6 hours compressed to 1 hour. For you, it's still the same amount of hours you will have spent to prepare for 6 hours, just that you had prepared all the stuff for us. Yeah, like taking us
Thank you.
through. Wow, thanks.
You're welcome. Perfect. If you're looking at here, everything seems to work perfectly. As you can see, is that so it is executed. Now, if we go back here, we execute this one. Where is this? We execute this. You should see that we have records there, and now we have had good records there, as you can see here. So, but we do not have records for fact table, right? So we could execute fact table the same way we did it. The same way we did it, but we will not do it this way. Instead, team, we're gonna do it in a more professional way. Let me show this to you. Okay, so this is for the bronze. So now we're going back to use what we call silver. Okay, so we're loading silver data from bronze. And what I want you to understand, the architecture of the pipeline change, right? So let me explain this to you. Let me go back here. This is our database. So if I say review, let me show you. Review, you can see that we have order, right? What I have seen is that people will use if condition here. Anytime, I'm gonna repeat it again, anytime a design will require 2 levels of nested activity, you should stay away of what we call if conditions. Because if there is a bug, it's going to be nearly impossible for you to troubleshoot this. Even though if you are an expert in data factory, in Azure Data Pipeline or Synapse Pipeline, however you want to label yourself, it will be time consuming. So instead of relying on if conditions, what I did, I filtered this. Okay, let me explain this to you. I need to first load everything that happened to be 1. Let me bring this back for you to understand again. This is very critical. And I just want you, that should be 15. Give me 1 second. Should be 15. 15, perfect, great. When we were loading the initial, sorry, when we were loading the initial loader, because all files are a single independent entity, the order doesn't make sense. Whenever we are loading data, and that data must go straight to a fact table where we have to join that that fact table with dimension to populate the fact data, we require the dimension to be loaded first. So what I'm doing here is that the initial load, I treat this as a full load, and I change the mindset from bronze to silver. So with that said, I can keep track from there as early as I want. So I want to load those first. When those first done, and I need to proceed with this. So that's exactly what I'm doing here. So I'm proceeding with this. What I'm proceeding with this, I'm passing those value to this for each loop. Inside of that, for each loop, I'm using a script task, okay? And then this is our database. And then if I go right there, you will see that I'm using everything dynamically. So this is the T-SQL work. And then that's the item. If you're looking at here, is that this is the T-SQL work. Everything come from here as a meta driven. If we're looking at here, there's the item target. So this is your item target as well. This is your target table. Okay, perfect. So now we have everything done. So once, once the dimension table are loaded successfully, we want to filter for the fact tables. So now I'm filtering on the fact table, right? Okay, so this is done. And now I'm proceeding with the fact table. Okay, so now as you can see, I'm using kind of the same expression, but here I'm focusing on what we call the fact table. So now what I'm going to do, I want you to see here, we still do not have, where is it? Okay, let me close this. So I have more room in front of me. Where do I have? Oh, the one that I just brought in. So let me close this. Give me a second. Okay, perfect. If we're looking at here, we have no information there. Give me a second, this will fail. But we have information here. So we need to move these informations to the silver. So now let's load that data. So now what I'm going to do, I'm gonna execute this one. When I execute this, what it's going to do, it's going to go create what we call a the lookup, create a process ID, do the filter, load the dimension table first, do a second filter, and load the fact table. If you're looking at the precedences, they are all on success. So therefore, if this is failed, this will not execute. If this is failed, this will not execute. You can see how robust the system is, and then you can execute it n number of times, which I'm about to show you. So now it might take another 90 minutes. If you have any questions, let me stop here, and then I'll be happy to go over the questions. Are there any questions?
Any questions? Don't be shy. You know, this is a lot. You are like a, a SQL veteran. Like, it's the way you cut through all of these. I'm like, oh my God, it's like what you do day and night. And so I'm guessing people are soaking in the information. The questions that have been asked by JC, you already answered. So she put it in chat. I think we didn't notice, so she had to raise her hand, and then you had answered. For now, I still don't see any question. But just so to squeeze one in, if you know we are still waiting, if you've got the time, it's do you still think there are some features in Synapse that are not yet implemented in Fabric currently? I know there used to be, but then I know they've added a lot in Fabric now.
Were you taking off the data pop-up line?
Yes, data pipeline.
Or were you comparing the data warehouse?
Well, I'm not an expert in both, but I've always, baking this is a month ago, I've heard people say there's some things that are available in Synapse that they are not yet available in Fabric. Again, these are months ago, and it's usually within the context of the data pipeline.
Yeah, in terms of data pipeline, um, uh, hmm, when it comes to variable driven, Synapse give you more flexibility because Synapse is 99.99% near data factory, Synapse pipeline, right? When Microsoft came out with Fabric, there was some limitation, but so far Fabric is having a lot of mature. Fabric, I know in terms of expressions, in terms of metadata driven, Synapse still shy, but um, I would, I'm a big fan of Synapse because Synapse is a platform, Fabric is a SaaS, and the beauty of Fabric, it is not a feature proof of engineering. It is also a feature proof of non-technical user. You understand? So with that said, it is more user-friendly to design data pipeline within Fabric than Synapse. But however, Synapse been there more than Fabric. So with that, there's a lot of feedback that reinforce Synapse. And of course, Synapse might look more mature in terms of expressions, but the level of scalability and you have less to worry because if you have to go on Synapse, to create a table, we have to understand how that table will be accessed. So with that said, we have to understand what partition we have to use. Should it be hash, which is normally dedicated to fact table? Should it be round robin for small dimension table? Should it be replicate um, for again very small and once in a while updating dimension. There's a lot of things you have to take in consideration when you're designing a data warehouse within Synapse. But all of those engineering mindset, you don't need that on the Fabric. So with that said, if you are looking for a tool where you are ready to use it with less worry about the engineering mindset, I would bring Fabric into the picture. But if you have a very solid engineering team, architect team, Synapse is still relevant. But remember, Synapse is more like a future development engineering. Even though we can integrate Power BI, but Power BI it's not a plugin within Synapse. So therefore, in terms of visualizations, you require software developer to do that in Synapse. Because if we have to think about the data pipeline and the data warehouse to do such comparison, there's a lot more you have to take in considerations.
Thanks.
So now, if we're looking at here, is that we have that. If we go back here, we execute this now, we should see we have data there. Okay? We have data. Okay, so that data we have here is that is that is the data that came from what we call um, uh, bonds. Move to this one. So now remember, our goal is to provide type 2. Okay, so now we will shift this to type 1. Give me a second. So where is this one? So let's go back right here. So let's go with the first one. So in here, we have this as full. We want to do this as delta. Okay. So sorry about that. So now we will use this as delta. So if I copy this query, okay, and I bring it right here, just give me a second. And I bring it right here, you should get the result, as you can see. So now we are pointing to what we call delta. You see it? If you recall right here, if we go back here, and then we come here, you can see we have two subfolder under electronics. We have full, we have delta. So now this is the delta. So now we have that delta, right? Okay, perfect. So what we're going to do, we're gonna load the delta now, because the full, let me show you something. The full load, let's go back here. Just give me a second. Let me go on the customers for us to see what I'm saying. The full load with the silver has nothing to do in terms of type 2, because this is a full load, right? So now we have the hash, right? Perfect. We have that data. But if we go and look for the validation of this one, there should be no history. Okay. Just give me one quick second. Let me go over 14. Was it 14? Because I shrunk the file a little bit. It should be 14. Validate silver data. Okay. So let me see. So perfect. If we're looking at here, there is no history involved. Okay. There is no history. There, nothing is being expired, because we treat the full load from silver, sorry, from bronze to silver as an incremental load, because we need to start as early as possible. So now consider tomorrow, after we load that data, tomorrow we have, for example, we have data coming from here. So what I'm doing here is we change this, let's save this. Now, if we're looking at here, oh, sorry, and I execute this, what we will be seeing is that it will go and load that data. When it load that data, we will get 10 records, because the delta more weekly a dummy file we have, it's a 10 record. Let me see if I can go back right there. So give me one quick second. Let me close this. We're done with this one. Okay, perfect. So where is my, let me close this one. Where is my log table? For example, perfect. I have my log table right there. If we pay close attention, you will see that. Okay, did we load? Those are full. That's good. Okay, so now let's wait until this is done. Seems like it hasn't completed yet, so it is loaded. Oh, it seems like it's fair forward. I'm not sure why. What's going on? Let me see. Is it? What am I saying here? I'm saying failure, which I did not expect failure. Okay, use configuration issue. So give me one quick second. Okay, so let me. Okay, perfect. Sometimes things about this one still load though. The data still load. Let me see. Anyway, the data still load. I don't know. I did not expect any error, and it should. Yeah, so the data still load. I cannot explain that. First time I'm seeing this. Yeah, perfect. So now let's not spend time on this one. So if we're looking at here, we re-execute this. What I want you to understand is that we got that. Okay, this is the process ID. Perfect, we have that. So we can see now, if we go back here, we can see actually this is the process ID. We can see now we have the delta right there. That's outstanding. Perfect. So now if we go to, we execute the other pipeline, which is we're loading it from bonds. So remember, so let's come here and this is the delta. So if we execute this, there must be data being pushing. So in here, this is where, sorry, the type 2 will be applied. Okay, let me show this to you. And then give me one quick second. So it is loading, just wait for a second. That must be 14. Once the loading is done, we can go and query this table. It will tell us all the history. We'll start with product first, and we'll show you what happened. Let's see if this is done. Yeah, it's almost done. Perfect. Everything went very fast. Okay, perfect. It is done now. Perfect. Now, first, let's go back right here. Where is the... So if we go back right here, you will notice that we have 10 records load. So now how can we get the history? If I click on this one, so this is the row that we expire. This is the row, the new row that we insert, okay? So if we're looking at here, what I want you to understand is that you see these two, they are the same product ID. When we first received them, it was electronics for the category, and the price was 39, right? But today we received that same product ID. It's still the same product name, but the category is office, and also the price is 42.99. So you can see we expire this one, okay? We end this one and we leave this as current, and same apply for the others as well. So if we're looking at here, we have the same thing. So if we need a complete audit, so we can use this script to validate what was changed across all entities. What I mean is dimensions, okay? So now, the way we done this team is good. The way we done this is good. In a normal way, when it comes to automation, this way work, but we need to merge this way. And sorry, the best way to merge it, let me show you something. There is an orchestrator. Within that orchestrator, so we create that process ID. Okay, so this is the same expression we use when we were executing the file independently. Okay, and then here is that we call the first where we load the CSV file from the blob storage to the bronze layer. That's what we're doing here. And we create some child parameters, and then we click here to give them access to the parameters. Okay, and if we did create variables, we could have come here, create that variable. If we did have a library variables, we could also get that information from here. And I hope one day Microsoft make this very flexible. This is very promising, but there's a lot of limitation here. But if you know what you're doing, you can create your own framework. But I can see how far Microsoft might go with this. Okay, and same apply for this one as well, as you can see. So here's the thing, for this one was failing. So what I'm going to do is to open this pipeline, which is the same pipeline. If you recall, we don't have process ID. The first one, we did have that, okay? So what I'm going to do, just to make sure this one connected and this one can query, if you're looking at here, it asks for the child schema name and child type name, okay? Sorry, if you recall. And then same thing here as well. We check if the file exists, as you can see here. And then here we also connect to our what we call database, and then we're performing the same task, right? So for some reason, I saw it was failing, it shouldn't, and I'm not sure why it was failing, so I will take a chance and execute it again, because it should work as expected. Let me, first of all, see the run, and then see if I can find out if I missed something. Just give me 1 second. It is, it shouldn't fail, but anyway, let me re-execute it again. Yep. So what I'm going to do is to go back right here and execute this. Okay. And then let's see. So before we execute this, it might be ideal to truncate. Give me 1 quick second to truncate everything, just for us to see how it will go and do the end-to-end. Give you 1 second. So I'm gonna truncate all of this together. So now, and I'm gonna also truncate the I think we have a log, those log table. I would love to truncate them as well. Okay, so therefore we have nothing there. We can watch that. So what do I mean that? When we are scheduling, we should not schedule each package independently. We should create a parent package, right? That process ID come from the parent package, and then we call invoke pipeline, and then we share that process ID. You see, we generate it from here. We share it and we give the app name. If we click here, you will see that those are the parent variable. We assign to the child variable and make sure they are the same name. That's what we're doing here. And then same apply for this one as well, as you can see here. And it seems like this connection connect to a different database. So let me go and browse all and connect to our database. That could be the reason why it was failing, which I doubt. So just give me 1 quick second. Hold on. It should be Fabric. Yeah. Okay, just give me 1 second. So let me refresh it. Yeah, refresh it. Do not save. Okay. Let's see one more time. Yeah, we good. That should be 2, right? That is 2. Perfect. Great. So now let's execute this. And then let's see. Let's execute this. And then we should see it will load that data. It will go call the bronze package to load that data from CSV. And if this is succeed, proceed. So therefore, the scheduling can be done right here. We can come and schedule this. If we want to schedule this, for example, we can give it a name and so on. And then give me 1 second. I click on trigger. Sorry about that. And then I don't perfect. So give me 1 second. Perfect. So I should click on schedules. Yeah, perfect. I can come and schedule it, right? And if I want, I can endorse it. I can promote it, make it inform to my team. Once everybody sign up, we can certify it as well. But this will require admin level. Or here I can go and add a schedule. Do I need a fixed interval? For example, every hour, daily, or do I need an interval base and everything? You name it. You can schedule it however you want. You can add parameters and so on. So because this is the parent level, so you have zero to worry, and you control the entire orchestration from one parent. And it's always best practices to decouple each goal and make sure you create one pipeline for one goal. Do not have one pipeline that have more than one goal. Otherwise, troubleshooting can be an issue, because if someone is not advanced, you give them that package to work on, they can mess up the whole flow. But instead of you dealing with the entire business flow, you're just dealing with one goal within the business flow, which will allow you um, to consume less time to troubleshooting. That's exactly the intent of breaking this in different stages and so on. I know I know we can talk, we can keep talking, and I can see that. So I'm gonna stay here. Yeah, if you have a question, feel free to let me know.
Oh, thanks a lot. We even need to let you rest because now I'm
Yes.
feeling very bad that we've kind of taken your voice and make the sore throat worse. But this is a lot. Like for me, I've taken some best practices out of what you've said. You know, I can see some pipelines I've created where I now see that it will have been better for me to have not mixed two goals in one pipeline. And it was because I felt, well, it was just very similar. You know, I had a notebook. Why just create another pipeline for just one notebook? So I'm going to improve my own pipeline orchestration based on what you've even said. So I'm glad I stayed to the end and we allow you to share all of these. I will just give one more chance to anybody to ask a question. If they don't, uh, we will let you go. But just can you tell us about your story about how you ended up, doing this? Has it been your plan from maybe age 4 to always do this?
Can you elaborate a little bit?
So your career journey, more like your expertise in your focus on data engineering on what you do now. What was your journey like? Was this your first career? Was it like when you started, I don't know, X number of years
No,
ago, this was all what you've done all your career?
when I started my career as a sysadmin, and then while I was helping other team, one of my managers suggested me to move to the data team. And then by moving to the data team, I kind of fell in love with that back then. And yeah, and then when I migrated to USA, I had a chance to restart in IT again as a junior DBA. That was a blessing from the sky. Yeah, and then I had a chance to work with different teams. Creating in terms of at the time it wasn't easy because you have to do the implementations. If I can remember, as a junior DBA, it seems like I was assigned to do advanced work. My task was to leverage PowerShell to move data from FTP in parallel, and then after that rely on SSIS. There were one tool I used to use called Talend. I'm not sure if you're aware of Talend.
No.
Okay, Talend is it's an Informatica tool.
I know Informatica, but I didn't know about this product from them.
Yeah, Talend tool. It's yeah, tool. It's yeah. Tool. Yeah. So yeah, Talent ETL tool. It was a very, very, very helpful, but in here you still have to deal with some of Java and stuff like that. But I was a big fan of SSIS. Even the organization has it because there's Cozy Rag, I remember back in the day, on top of SSIS. Yeah, while I'm using this is a very flexible tool as well in terms of Informatica tools. And then what else? Yeah, and I have a chance to work for some organization that only tailor the positions and working with machine learning. Sometimes I might be in Asia, working with different teams and so on. Yeah, when I joined Microsoft, AI happened to be the thing for me, so I have to focus on it at Microsoft. Yeah, that was. Great opportunity, and I did leverage it. But one thing I want you to understand, there's no AI without data. So in the context of AI, the engineering mindset will still be there in terms of data ingestion, cleansing, right? Even though if you're doing machine learning, or either you want to call it a RAG, the data must be clean because the agent can only be accurate to the state of your data is accurate. You understand the cleansing, the pre-processing, they're still there. And except that you require different mindset like RAG, vector, and so on. Yeah. So in a nutshell, I came from sysadmin to DBA, database developer, and then machine learning, and then Microsoft instructor and data engineer, and then I moved to principal data and AI architect, and that's it. Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah.
you've had an interesting career journey. It's the dream of some people that you've had. So,
Yeah.
thank you very much. I think we should.
One more thing I
No.
want to add, if you don't
Okay,
mind.
yes.
So,
Sure, yes,
mhm.
please.
Perfect. So if we're looking at that data after we load it, if you remember, it was all in C. So if we move back to this one, is that we should get all the data back, right? And then, as you can see, we get all the data back, right? And if we go to the process log, we can see the process ID we created, one process ID for both of them that move that data from storage, um, uh, from Azure Blob Storage to bronze and from bronze to silver, as you can see. So therefore, if we have one process ID, we can pinpoint that. So while the data is there, we can create a data agent to visualize that data. So which I already created for you, if I'm not mistaken. So if we come back here, there's a data agent. Where is it? Do I have to refresh this? Give me a second. The data agent is a kind of a fancy way, okay, to chat on your data. For example, if we're looking at here, I can add data, so which is the tables that are already loaded here. As you can see, those are the table we were working. So in terms of setup, this is the instruction. So we giving the agent information on what the agent should be doing, right? What the agent should expect. And also we give it the data instructions to reinforce the agent accuracy. And then we give it the query examples because the examples will reinforce the token predictions because it's like you augment the model, right, during the processing times. And then therefore we can publish that agent and we can use that agent. For example, if we're looking at here, I can talk to that agent using basic question. For example, I can say to the agent, let me claim the history. Give me a second. I can tell that agent. So what happened? It's not giving me. Is it because I'm live? Perfect, great. So I can now talk. I don't need to leverage SQL. I can talk to analyze that data. I can talk, for example, to 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 extract insight. I don't need to be an expert in Python. And I added a tool, which is the code interpreter. In case if I wanna do analysis, as you can see, I was able to get that information, right? So I couldn't go with the step-by-step on optimization, that basic context. So if we didn't optimize the agent wouldn't be able to answer that basic questions, right? So meaning the optimization is a key. So under one workspace, I'm able to do everything. If I don't like that version of that agent, I can, for example, revert it, or I can use that agent, the agent that I publish it straight if I want to. So give me one quick second. Let me close this so I can have more. Yeah, I can clean and ask that same question again and different questions, and the agent will be able to work. It is very interesting to see how Microsoft make it easy for us. Perfect. So I think I'm all set. So how was it, Tim? I know the voice wasn't that good, but hopefully the message, I was able to deliver it.
Yes, yes. In fact, also too, when I told people that, in the feedback, they should remember that you have a fever. So that's why, your voice is not coming that very clear. But we heard you clearly. A lot of
Yeah,
people thumbs it up, so people understood that, it's the
perfect.
fever. But we could hear you. At least I could hear you. And so far from the questions and interactions, I
Yes,
think people are hearing you.
thank you. I just did not want to cancel it because
So
I saw a
thanks.
couple registered, and
Oh
I said,
God.
let me do my best to make it.
Thank you. We are very glad you did not cancel it. Thanks.
You're
And I
welcome.
feel bad now that we've made it, worse, but thank you very much. So I see people even, I think we need to let you rest. So, but thanks a lot. And I'm so glad that, you had this session with us. I have learned a lot. I don't tend to work heavily on the data engineering part until recently, and I've not been exposed to too many patterns, and this is like me being exposed to, another professional's pattern of doing things that opens my eyes to some things that are, I've not seen done in some of these ways you've done things, and that's how I get better. And I'm sure those who have asked questions too, it is from the context of that they have scenarios that they probably would apply these to, and so you have blessed us all. Let me use that word. Thank you very very much. And I know some people left a bit of after, like, I think about 9:15, but it's usually because they need to do other things. It's not because they were not getting it. And a lot of them are, like I mentioned, they know that it's being recorded, but people stayed till 9:05 and a bit more. It was much later that some people left. So it's also to show that they try to stay as maximally as they can, as maximally as they can. So thank you very very much.
Welcome.
I don't know if Alexander wants to say anything before we close the session.
Well, I want to thank you, John, because that was very exciting session today. I was glued to my screen, literally, because it's not every day that we see the live skill of manipulating a data warehouse using the medallion approach, which is a rare thing actually in the pure SQL. And it's very humbling and that we can learn from you that easy and our entire community. So that's a big thank you on behalf of everyone here today, and also those that didn't attend, but I'm sure will be glad to watch that recording. Also, I just wanted to mention that, guys, every single time we do a session on this community, we learn, but it doesn't mean that we should be just passive listeners and watchers and learners. Like, let's use our skills. And today I posted that in the chat, but in case you just didn't notice that today it's coincidence, but it's a good coincidence that Microsoft AI Skill Fest started, right? What it means is that you can take the knowledge that John just shared with all of us, and you can go register for that event, and you can go and take a learning class in there, anyone. For example, there's an absolutely great skill that you can just go and verify. It's called a warehouse Microsoft applied skill, implement a data warehouse, right? And this is exactly what we've been learning from Jean today. And you can pass it, and you will earn a great certification that will help propel your career forward. Just a small note. The link is in the chat, but you can also just search for it.
Thanks. I've reposted what you even posted earlier so that people can see it without scrolling up. Okay, so I think with that, we have come to the end of today's session. Thank you very, very much, Jen, and please take rest. I pray you wake up tomorrow completely recovered, like, it's like the miracle of the webinar. But thank you very much, and have a good night rest. Thank you to everybody who's joined us and stayed to the end. Bye, everyone. So,